You're listening to the Modern Healthcare Back Office, a podcast dedicated to solving the billing issues and gridlock facing the healthcare industry, presented by ProChant, hosted by Chuck Ellis and Rachel Schools.
Hey there, folks. Chuck here, and welcome to another issue of the Modern Healthcare Back Office. I am joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Ms. Rachel Schools. How are you, Rachel?
I'm amazing. How are you?
I am also amazing. We're going to be talking about something very near and dear to Rachel and my's heart, and to do that, we're bringing in Ms. Tina Ratliff, who is an expert on infusion pharmacy billing. Tina, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing, Chuck?
I'm doing fantastic. Now, we are excited because we had you on before and we got to know you a little bit. Now we're really going to kind of focus in on your subject matter expertise, especially when it comes to new technologies. And Rachel, you and I have been talking about AI, I think just about every time that we talk, and how ridiculously fast it's advancing and how it's changing everything. And we want to make sure that good folks in the infusion pharmacy business are ready for what's ahead. So, Rachel, let's talk about AI.
Let's get going. So you mentioned it already. The AI, it's here, right? Where everybody's making use of AI all over the place in the infusion industry, in the HME industry, and other sort of offshoots of the healthcare industry. They always sort of get left behind for some reason, where they don't necessarily get to adopt things as early as everyone else. And I have my spirit animal, Tina, here with me. And we sort of see eye to eye on that. And she has some amazing ideas on things that you can do and ways that you can get prepared to take advantage of some of this technology that makes our lives easier.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Where would you like me to start, Rachel?
Man. So why don't we sort of... Why don't we start at the beginning? What is the ultimate? Absolutely, there's one thing that you've just got to do if you're looking to become a data-led or a data-driven organization. There's one thing for sure.
You got to get all your information in the box on your desk with the keyboard. You got to get everything into your system. That is and that looks like a huge project. Right? You look at that and you're like, this is a mountain and I have a tablespoon. How do I start? Where do I start?
Yeah. So why don't we maybe we can walk through, where do you start?
Right. So a lot of people just want to dive right into the nuts and bolts of what is everyone doing, right? How are my billers doing things? Are they doing things correctly? That type of thing. But really you can't. When you want to look at a high functioning office that is data driven and that is doing things electronically, right? You've got to start looking big picture. So the first thing I do when I walk into an office, so I've done a lot of consulting in my time in this business, and one of the first things I can tell immediately when I walk in an office that things are wrong. That things are just not being done as streamlined as they possibly can. So when I walk into an office, I look for a couple things. Does anybody have giant stacks of paper on their desk? Is there a big whiteboard on the wall that tells us who's getting a prescription refill, right? That's no good. What if the cleaning people, wipe that out?
Off.
Exactly. It's not good. It's not safe. What if those papers on someone's desk accidentally get thrown away? Now they don't have the information that they need. So the first thing that I always suggest to people is, and some of these projects you can start simultaneously, right? And make where you can make your biggest improvement is getting your medical records into your medical records system. Right now, I know that there's some have to keep the hard copies for so many years, and that's fine. You can store those somewhere. But as far as needs of people retrieving medical records easily for you, you really need to get all of those medical records in your system. Now, a lot of people have already done this, right? Doctors' offices, a lot of them don't have those giant filing cabinets of patient records and that type of stuff. They're actually in their system. So even if you have to hire an intern or a person from a recruiting company just to come in and sit there and scan records into your medical record system, it's worth
And
it.
tag them properly, right?
Yes, yes.
And file them away in such a
Mhm.
manner that each one turns into a task because everything requires attention, right?
Well, no, these would be more like medical records that are just sitting in your office in a filing cabinet, right?
I
So
gotcha.
you keep
So you're
filing papers
talking
into them. Yep.
old school. So you're not even talking about inboxes. You're just saying I walk
Oh,
in and
no.
if we still have paper abounds.
Yes. And
Okay.
you would be surprised. So if I think about that, it could have been 10 years ago, but I am still seeing it today. A lot more than I ever thought I would. So this is still a problem. A lot of pharmacies are still doing that. Are still keeping these paper records and trying to manage them from their desk. Some people are printing things out of their system and putting them into these paper medical records. That kills me a lot in my heart. It's in your system already. You don't have to put it in the paper chart. You need to get the paper chart in there with the rest of the medical records that you generated from your system. So to me, that's a huge thing. It helps with people trying to find information. So people aren't having to go get up from their desk, pull a record, hope that someone didn't take that paper out of that record, or that record's not at somebody's desk and they're off on vacation for a week and nobody knows where it is. Just a lot of reasons to get that stuff electronic.
I'm a little flabbergasted because I'm already on step 5 of getting ready for AI, and I didn't realize that you meant that there are still providers who are actually operating on paper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Even your
Okay.
contracts, so even your payer contracts, even your cash deposits, all of that stuff should be stored. Maybe not in, maybe some of it can't be stored depending on what medical record system you use in your patient medical record system. You still should have some type of drive or somewhere that's accessible by the other users in the office to store those things and to file them away. So the contracts, for example, if I'm on the phone with the insurance company, I have a very short amount of time to produce some information from my read them something from my contract or what's on my fee schedule. I got to be able to find that quick. They're going to hang up. They're not going to let you sit there. So having all those things at your fingertips is the really important part.
Yep. That is the important part. I wonder if there's some way that we could expand on this and not today necessarily, but perhaps go process by process, Tina, like a functional department by functional department,
Mm-hmm.
and really talk about what paper comes in there, what types of paper, what
Mm-hmm.
happens with that paper, and if there are any ways to get rid of that paper. Or even we could take it a step further, Tina, and say fax.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of medical record systems, as far as faxing and things like that, will have these write fax and things that electronically fax. They're wonderful. When you get that fax, you now have a document, or you send a fax and you get confirmation. You now have a document that is basically electronic and you can save it right to your files where you're storing those things, right? And now you'll have it. You can save it to your patient's medical records. And a lot of systems, you can upload documentation that you receive via fax right into your medical record system.
Yep. One of the other quick places I look when I'm trying to get rid of paper is to the cash posting department, right?
Uh-huh.
It's 2022. There should be a way, right, to get enrolled to receive electronic remits from.
Yes. And some payers will even require you to do that. And you might as well do that because you are also going to want to set up for EFT so you get paid immediately, because who doesn't like money immediately, right?
Mhm.
Instead of waiting for somebody's check in the mail, right? So that's really, really a smart way to do that, where you can kill two birds with one stone. So if you're going to be signing up for electronic remits, that's also a good time to make sure that you're signed up for EFTs.
When I walk in and I'm doing consulting or something, Tina, and have like obscure sort of goal or something of just cleaning things up, I always sort of look to cash first to make sure that everything's in order there. In other words, we're
Right.
enrolled for both EFT and ERA, because I have a nightmare story from at another company I was at one time. Like, my team was like, we just can't keep up, right? They kept going through this AR, and like, I started identifying a trend. Like, everything that they touched, Tina, it was paid already.
Oh, wow.
So they're wasting all this time doing that, and or it was denied even, or transferred to deductible. And come to find out, it was just that it was coming through on paper EOBs that just weren't getting posted into the system.
Right. And then the other thing too is a lot of times I'll see where people are signed up for electronic EOBs and they are coming, but then they print them and then which I get, I love to see my remit in its original state, right? Not the way that it's presented to me in the system, because I want to see all the information. But you can even do that by opening it to PDF, and just looking at it on the screen versus printing out that paper. One of the things I would suggest doing in a pharmacy, if you are trying to go paperless, the very first thing that I do is I tell IT, hey, I want to know how much paper my department's printing. Every month, I want to know how much paper we're printing because I want to see it going down. If it's not going down, I know that everybody's not on board, right? Once we start keeping everything electronically. And so that's a really good way to see, when IT tells you, oh, you printed 10,000 pages this month, whatever they tell you, it's always huge when you start out. But then by a couple months later, when you see that you've cut it by half, you're like, man, I'm making progress. It gives you that feeling of making progress, that what you're doing is not in vain.
So, Tina, this has been really fascinating. Now, before we go, where can people find you, follow you if they've got any about infusion billing?
Definitely on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place. You can message me on there. It's open. I'll if you send me a invite to connect, I'll certainly accept it, and you can ask me whatever you'd like.
Wonderful. All righty. Well, again, thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Tina, for your time today. Thank you, Rachel, for joining me on yet another episode of the Modern Healthcare Back Office. Thank you for liking, subscribing, sharing with your friends and colleagues. And wherever you are, we hope you're having a safe and wonderful day. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Modern Healthcare Back Office, a presentation of ProChant, a wholly owned revenue cycle management service dedicated to serving HME, pharmacy, infusion, and other healthcare providers. Learn more about us at prochant.com.